You know, I'd read Cherie and The Last of Cherie, which I'd loved, but I knew nothing about her life, and I particularly knew nothing about this early part of her life where her husband took credit for her first 4 novels. So I just read the script and I thought, wow, I can't believe that I didn't know about this woman. I feel unbelievably empowered by this story, because it's a story of a woman that steps out from the shadow of a man and finds her own voice and lives her own truth. And I found that incredibly inspiring, and I hope that hopefully people who go and see this film will find that inspiring too.
And do you think this is kind of a time's up story?
I mean, I think that, you know, we made this before the Me Too movement had hit, so, but I think, you know, we've been allowed to talk about feminism and inequality for the last 10 years. Wash, the director, had been trying to make this film for the last 17 years and he hadn't managed to get the funding, so I think it's not an accident that suddenly culture is ready to hear this. So yeah, it feels very timely, but it was an accident. No, I mean, I think again what was fascinating was, I mean, she was a huge celebrity, but she was part of a celebrity couple with her husband, and they utterly monetized their celebrity, and they sold soap and they sold, you know, cigarettes, and, you know, so I think what was fascinating was, as well as it being about gender politics and sexual politics that we're still talking about today, it was equally about that celebrity culture, which I thought was a new phenomenon and actually has been going on for at least 100 years. I think it's very interesting that certain parts of the media have, I don't want to say purposefully, but let's just say misrepresented my meaning and exactly what I said. So I would suggest to those people in the media that they reread the entirety of the essay and not just take one bit out of it, because the comments that are made are completely about our culture that silences women's truths and forces us all to hide. And I absolutely did not shame anybody in any way, in fact quite the opposite. So I would say to everybody, there is a wonderful book out at the moment, it's called Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies, and I suggest if you want to know about this, then you should actually read the essay and all the others in the book. And the wonderful thing is that all the proceeds go to Girls Up, which is a phenomenal UN foundation which gives money to organisations that are supporting girls' education, girls' safety and girls' leadership in developing countries. Thank you.
It should be in every history book and kids should be learning about it, and they're not. But hopefully now, I don't know, maybe something is starting to change and that's great. But I knew nothing about it. You know, I left school very young, so I rely on all my work to inform me about things and educate me. But yeah, I mean, if this was a man, we'd all be, you know, Tom Hanks would have played him in the movie of his life 15 times over. So I'm not trans, so I was scared that that would be something that people would be against my casting, and I understand if that's the case, absolutely. But I was reassured when I knew that the casting process had been very, very open. I was also reassured by the fact that for the first time in history, Wash has cast 2 trans actors in cis roles. I did an incredible amount of research, and I think it's very important for me not to apologise for my work. I won't disempower myself like that. So, but if it means that people want to use it as a catalyst for further conversation, then fantastic. You know, I'm always happy to be part of that. The point should be that everyone's allowed to play everything, as opposed to it being, because if I'm limited to playing what I am, that's all I get is Irish women. And if you think that you guys don't know your history or French women don't know, can you imagine Irish Catholics? We know nothing about our great women. I hope that what we're moving towards is that everyone plays everything. And I hope that this film helps with that, because it's colorblind, this film too, colorblind casting. And I feel like it's an incredibly progressive film.
I don't know if it's a time's up story, but I think it's an incredibly important message to be told now. And I think with, you know, female independence at its height and more female roles being seen, it's very important that this message is told. And also for women across the world who aren't involved in the acting industry, for women just across the board, I think it's a really lovely message.
Well, it took 15 years for Wash to make it, and in a way, there's a reason, you know, there's a time for everything, and what's happened since we made it and it coming out, the whole Me Too movement and everything, it's rather serendipitous and interesting that I think it strikes a chord now, a story of a woman whose art and whose talent was appropriated by a domineering husband.